All right, and hello, everybody. So welcome to another edition of the Gen AI Meetup Podcast. I'm Mark with my wonderful co-host, Shashank. So we're going to try to talk about some of the news stuff this week. It's kind of been a little bit of a slower news week, but, a slow week in AI. There's still a lot to talk about. So we'll be doing that. So first of all, Shashank, what's up with OpenAI this week? It seems like a lot of stuff is happening there.
Yeah. So we've had a lot of drama from them for the last couple months with Sam Altman being ousted by the board of directors and then him coming back and replacing the board of directors, and the old people who had an issue with him kind of just slowly deciding to take their leave and move on to other projects. We've recently found out that OpenAI had a non-disparagement clause in their employment contract, which probably prevented some of the people who left from saying bad things about them, or they would have lost all of their stock.
Whoa, wait. They would take away people's stock?
Yes.
If they talked negatively about OpenAI?
Correct. But since then, I think they've removed that clause and they've changed the employment contract and the terms of agreement and stuff. And one of the recent people who left had a lot of negative things to say about it. Particularly, it's some of the same things that they've been complaining about, that OpenAI has been focused more on making money, releasing bigger models without any care about safety and preventing misuse, and they're just focused more on money as opposed to the founding principles, which was to bring safe AI to the world.
I wonder if OpenAI is going to be relevant in the next couple of years, because OpenAI I think is kind of ahead of most companies. I think the only there's a few companies that you could argue are more ahead, right? I think like some may argue like Anthropic is a little bit ahead. You could argue Google, whatever. But like OpenAI is like 100%, in the running right now. So I think that if you think about it, like OpenAI is the top now, but that's kind of leveraging a bunch of the research they did a while ago, right? Because with any software project, like you're going to do a lot of like the initial research and development at, let's say like a software project maybe takes a year, right? So let's say like January, February, March, like you're doing all your initial design, then like April, May, June, you're building, July, August, you're like maybe fixing all the bugs. Then like time around like, fall, winter time, maybe like October, November, December, you're launching it and then fixing the bugs. So I think that maybe like you really need those like senior people at the beginning, and then maybe over time, once the architecture is kind of established and they know what they're building, you maybe need them less. So I think that like OpenAI is still able to kind of ride on their coattails a little bit. But it seems to me like if all of their most senior researchers go away, like who's going to be there to build the next stuff? Maybe it's possible that OpenAI has hired a bunch of super smart people and they've already learned what they need to learn from those senior engineers, and maybe those people were there just for show. I don't know, but it seems unclear to me if OpenAI is going to continue to be competitive going forward after all these people left. Because I don't know. I don't think Sam Altman is like a massive machine learning researcher.
Well, to clarify, a lot of the people from the exec team have left, not specifically like people from the engineering team. So people who are driving the vision for the company, the chief scientists, but the engineers who are doing most of the work are still there. A lot of people are still there. So I feel like it's going to function just fine as a company in the short, near future. But the engineering leadership may suffer, but we've also heard they're working on a new project. What is it? Project Strawberry?
Yeah. Sam Altman, he like tweeted a picture of him gardening or something like that, with like some strawberries in the garden. He's like, "Oh, I love strawberries." So this has been like a whole thing where OpenAI, they called this algorithm like Q-Star. We don't really know what it is. Apparently, it's some sort of like revolutionary breakthrough in machine learning. Nobody actually knows what it is, but it's been really hyped. And now it's been codenamed Strawberry. So we don't know a lot about it. For all we know, it's just like all hype that it may not live up to it. So I feel a little bit bad talking about it just because like we're kind of like feeding into the hype. But OpenAI right now is still like a big company, so we got to talk about it at least a little bit.
Yeah. So the rumors are it's going to be the next gen model, maybe GPT-5 equivalent or something close to it. But a lot of other people are also very skeptical because there's a bunch of other labs, including Google, that have been working on polishing the capabilities of these models, like math, reasoning. And given how all the other companies have caught up to the lead that OpenAI had a while back, and we talked about this in the last episode, like Facebook released a fully open source model, which is comparable to GPT-4o for free. And that's just insane. So it's going to take a lot for them to catch up and maintain their position as like the leading company in AI. One thing I'm looking forward to is for them to build some kind of an agentic, workflow or UI to help people run these models and solve more complicated tasks, like in a loop, especially now that they have a bunch of different GPTs, which are made by other people, and they have a developer ecosystem, which is growing. So if they're able to leverage that and build like agents to solve like harder challenges, that would be pretty cool.
I thought the GPTs were similar to agents, because, for example, the Figma one, you can say like, "Hey, make me a PowerPoint presentation."
Yeah, but like a multi-tool wielding agent that can like string together all kinds of different GPTs and have them all work together.
You could. I don't know if OpenAI needs to be the one to build that though, because there's already a lot of tools out there for making multi-agentic workflows. Like there's Crew AI, there's AutoGen, I think Llama Index has one.
All of those are for developers. I'm picking a customer-facing one, which would make it super simple for you to just describe what you want, and then boom, you have an agent.
I mean, you could. To me, I don't think that is that interesting. I mean, like, it's interesting, right? But that would just feel more of like a wrapper around some of these agentic frameworks that we already have, maybe with like a UI. And maybe you could add some AI to make it easier for people to use it. But to me, that's not like revolutionary. That's more of like an application of what we have today.
I guess speaking of agents, Mistral built a platform.
Yeah,
to make agents easier.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It seems like so for those that don't know, Mistral is a small French, I think it's a French company.
Yep.
And they are their whole thing is like doing AI really cheaply. So as far as I know, they're spending way less money on their research and development than other companies. So they're just super small team, and they're able to kind of compete with the big boys. So they made it so that you can go in to the Mistral website and create an agent. So it makes it like very user friendly. It's the whole thing. It doesn't require any programming whatsoever. It's just like a thing that you can like fill out like a form on their website basically, and you can have an agent. So I think this will like really kind of open it up for people who want to go and then use this for their workflow. And I think it's like little innovations like this that are really going to help kind of bring AI to the masses.
I completely agree. This makes it so much simpler to create agents because, like you mentioned, Llama Index, LangChain, they're all fantastic tools, but so cumbersome to use, especially as a non-developer, non-engineer. If you have a GUI, this would be fantastic for the masses.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we'll just do like a little rapid fire news. So yeah, Mistral. Another one, Shashank, you mentioned is that new open source image generator, Flux.
I don't
know about that.
I don't think they're open source. I think they're. You're right. I think they are open source. It's the team behind Stable Diffusion, and that's another company that's been imploding. Similar to OpenAI, a lot of people have left for different reasons. Though I don't think they have any issue with the vision for Stable Diffusion or something, especially because they're not as big of an industry leader as OpenAI is. But they have had a lot of struggles figuring out how to stay afloat and provide these large models for free. It's not cheap. So their founder left, and apparently a lot of these people who are responsible for this new image generation model, Flux.1, from Based Labs. They used to work at Stable Diffusion a while back as like the chief scientists and some of the exec team, and they left and built this new open source alternative to DALL-E 3 or Midjourney, and it's comparable to like the best image generation models out there, which I think is Midjourney. It gets text right in images, which has been a hard problem for a while.
Oh, the Flux gets text right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think most companies right now are starting to solve text inside images, so you can ask it to build your logo, and the first image on their website is Flux on Based Labs, which is generated by their diffusion model, which is really cool.
That is cool. And also, it seems like it doesn't have the guardrails that a lot of these other AI models have in place. So it looks like you can kind of create images of whatever you want.
Cool.
Yeah. So it seems like they're really leaning into some of the adult content that you could potentially generate.
Oh, I see. There's a big market for that. Speaking of no guardrails, Elon Musk tweeted an image of Kamala Harris.
What?
Yeah, which apparently violates all of Twitter's or X's policies against spreading misinformation. But like, I don't know.
I mean, who's gonna do anything? It's like, what are you gonna do? Fire him?
I mean, they could take down his post.
I mean, he's like the CEO. Is he the CEO? He's the. He like owns it. Yeah, I mean, like no one's gonna take down his post.
He's like the chief anarchist king something. He has a made up title there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So speaking of Elon, he just did this. Like, there was a. Did you see that Lex Fridman interview with him?
I started watching it. It's very long.
Yeah, 8 hours.
Yeah, it's a long ass podcast.
Well, I mean, Elon Musk, I think, talked for like an hour or something in that podcast.
It's with the whole team.
Yeah. And then he was talking there how they just built some sort of like new data center. I think it was in Nashville.
Okay.
Yeah. So apparently it's one of the world's biggest AI data centers. So
was that where he's raising money for his XAI data center too?
Yeah. I don't know if that's where he's raising the money from, okay, but that's where he's going to be.
That's where he's going to build it.
Yeah. I think it's around there's something around Tennessee, I think. So yeah, it seems like maybe Grok will be in the running. Elon claims that they will be maybe an order of magnitude better than GPT-4 when it's done. So we shall see. I mean, if he says it, it's probably true, but the timeline's been a little bit out of whack.
Yeah. He is not known to stick to timelines very well, but he gets there eventually, though.
He does, and I think that's okay. I mean, I don't hold it against him, and these things are hard to build, so it's fine.
Yeah, I guess the Neuralink episode isn't directly related to generative AI, but it does use a lot of machine learning to interpret the results and make sense of all of these brainwaves and signals that are coming in from these receptors that are in your brain. Some of the cool things that they talked about was the fact that we have very limited throughput when we're talking with human language, and to be able to shove all of the things that I have in my head into your head directly through a high bandwidth interface, that would be super cool. Like, to all of the listeners out there, I have so many thoughts in my head, but I'm limited by language, by my ability to articulate and condense all of these thoughts that are in my head into human language, and to envision a world where I'm able to just beam all my thoughts into other people's heads and vice versa. That would be insane.
That's very cool. Although, one thing that I'm not sure about is, like, I think, like, in my brain, I'm not the most articulate. And then, like, when you start speaking, you can kind of, like, process your thoughts and maybe get more articulate, right? Because it's like, you have, like, all these thoughts, right? Like, would, like, maybe you could beam all the information, but would the other person be able to understand you?
Oh.
Right? Because it's like, it might just be too much. Unless, like, you had, like, another chip in your head that was helping you, like, interpret it, and, like, summarize it. Because it just might be, like, too much information. Like, imagine, hypothetically, let's just say you were, like, speaking in front of, like, a large group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you were speaking in front of, like, a room of 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of those 100 people just started beaming their thoughts at you. It's be too much, right? Like, I mean, in a certain sense, it might help you get a read on the room.
Sure.
Because they could, like, tell you their thoughts, but
maybe not the whole room at once. Maybe at least one-on-one.
Right, but, like, if you built that, like, how would you turn that off? Right? Like, how would you prevent somebody from, I mean, maybe you could, like...
Well, it's like sharing a file via Bluetooth. Maybe you have to send it and the other person has to accept it.
I guess, but then that's, like, slowing things down, right?
No, I'm sure that would be fine. You can still have high bandwidth, SSL communication.
Yeah.
Which is...
Maybe you could just, like, put on, like, a do not disturb mode where, like, no one can, like, beam your thoughts to you. But then also, like, if they could read the thoughts, could they, like, I don't know, like, send advertisements to your brain? Like, would they know if, like, you actually, like, not just even looked at the ad, but, like, really, like, read it, understood it, thought about it, considered it? Right? I mean, that's probably what would happen. Like, because, I mean, if I'm an advertiser, like, maybe, like, you click on my ad, maybe you even see my ad, but, like, did you like really did you really see the ad? If you know what I'm saying.
I do. That's a scary future. I'm sure we'll get there eventually, because advertising takes over every single domain, and it is taking over these LLMs too. Specifically, Perplexity is trying to inject ads and trying to also be good citizens of the internet and share some of the advertising revenue with the content publishers, like news websites, so that it doesn't get a lot of flack for just stealing data, which I think is a good thing. I think that is the internet we all want, where the people who are creating the content get compensated for doing that. And these models don't just steal all of this data.
Well, I mean, that seems like a good thing. I didn't realize Perplexity was doing that. And by the way, you got, like, a free Perplexity subscription with your Rabbit R1, right?
Sure. Free is...
included.
Included, yeah. I honestly haven't used the Rabbit device after I got it. It's been dead for a while. I need to charge it. Let me plug it in. But the Perplexity subscription has been pretty nifty. Mostly when I'm trying to rely on factual information to do some kind of research, and I don't trust the subjective judgment and hallucinations of some of these models. Yeah, I like Perplexity. It's pretty good. I haven't used SearchGPT, but that'd be cool to try out if and when that becomes publicly available. But so far, Perplexity is fantastic. For research.
What types of things do you research with it?
Well, right now I've been on this health kick, learning more about my blood sugar. I have a continuous glucose monitor on right now, trying to understand more about gut health, sleep, diet, supplements, etc. And there's so much information online, and so much conflicting information. Each expert has their own opinion, and to try to condense all this knowledge, like I'm not going to sit and read every single thing about everything. It's so overwhelming. So this has been useful in condensing all of that.
That's great. Actually, one thing that I've been using a lot is called Consensus. I think you know that one, right?
Yeah, it's a research search engine, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it has a co-pilot that can help you synthesize all of the research papers together.
Oh.
So if you say like, is like LDL cholesterol bad for me? And it'll say like, based off of these like 30 papers, and then 7 of these papers were from a highly cited journal, and then like 18 of them said like it was bad for you, like 5 of them said it was neutral, and then 3 of them said it was good for you, or whatever. So like everybody, or like 74% say like it's good. So it's kind of like an automatic meta-analysis tool. It's been fantastic for helping me just like find like what is like, I mean, I shouldn't say like the truth, but like what is hence the name. Yeah, like the consensus recommendation. So
it's really cool. I'm looking at it right now. It's a I remember we used this to build out an app. And I forget what we were using. We were using their
well,
kind of scraping their website for a test hackathon project.
We weren't even scraping the website. We were just calling their API, which wasn't specifically public. But anyways, we just did that like a couple times to like try it out. We're not actually using that anymore.
Yeah.
Fantastic website though. Honestly, I think it's like my favorite one for finding out like medical knowledge, because I feel like the problem is when you search like on like Google for something, or like not even Google, but just like not to single out Google, just like any search engine really, you're gonna find information that is like more from these like established places, like like this is what like the CDC says, or like this is what the World Health Organization says about whatever,
which may not necessarily be true.
I mean, that's right. It may be true, may not be true, maybe like I feel like oftentimes like the recommendations aren't like
they're too general.
Yeah, it's just like for the general population. But when you want to like dig deep, go into it, like you want to actually look at the research paper, know like the mechanism of action, like actually get something like hyper specific. And I think consensus is like a great thing for that. Honestly, I think this is one of like my favorite use cases of Gen AI. It's like a simple one, right? Of just consolidating information.
Yeah.
But it's super important, right? Because like if there is like a research paper, like it might take you, I don't know how long it takes to read a research paper. It might take like a couple days to like actually read it, like
understand it. Sure.
Right. But like an AI model can read it in like, a fraction of a second.
Mm-hmm.
And the AI model could read, 100 of these papers or 1,000 of these papers, understand them, synthesize the information, and like summarize it so that like you can understand it. So you can get at like the information that you need from the actual papers, which I think is just gonna like really help like figure out like what's actually like true, right? Because I think that in the days of kind of clickbait journalism, where people will say like, oh well, red wine is good, and it's like, oh well, actually it's not like red wine, but it's like the resveratrol in the red wine, and it's like, oh well, actually resveratrol is like debatable if it's good or not. So it's like maybe red wine isn't good for you, but then people just read the article like, oh, red wine is good for you, and it's like, is that true? It's like, well, the consensus is maybe not.
Yeah, and it's not just medical research. It's literally all kinds of research papers. I just searched on consensus, is nuclear fusion possible? And it gave me, possibly at a 40%, yes, 33%, no, 22%. So it's like, maybe. And it has a bunch of citations and a bunch of reasons for how it jumped to that conclusion.
Whoa. That's cool. What about like something a little bit more controversial? Like what about like rent control? Does it say anything about that? Like does rent control work? Is there any studies around that? Kind of curious because I always heard that it didn't work, but I guess like it works for the people who like don't want to have their rent raised. But
I guess we might need to think through how we want to phrase this question a little more. But for does rent control work specifically, it says no at a 67%.
Oh, whoa. Okay. So maybe like does rent control result in the average home price getting less expensive?
Let me actually take a look at Perplexity and see how that compares.
Okay.
Because I have the Pro subscription. Let me see what kind of research it does, what kind of citations it has. It looks at Vox articles, some Forbes articles, and 5 more articles from Reddit, The Hill, which is a newspaper outlet. Balanced summary. It's just giving me like a balanced summary with arguments for and for arguments against, and
but it's not telling you like if it works or not.
Depends.
Oh, it's probably true.
Probably.
Yeah. So I think like if you say rent control doesn't work 60% of the time, or that means the other 40% it does.
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe the 67% is the number of papers that have an argument against rent control.
Okay. Yeah, it could be.
But before I forget, speaking of health, so I've been using this continuous glucose monitor to learn more about how my body responds to sugar and how my blood sugar spikes with, as I go about my day, as I eat foods, as I get more or less sleep, as my stress levels change. And one nifty feature that this app has is a meal logging feature where I just take a picture of whatever I'm eating and it exactly classifies everything that's on my plate. So
what's the app?
This specific one is veri.co.
How do you spell that?
Veri.
Oh, Veri, not Very, but Veri.
Dictionary words, 4 letters are hard to get. So I think they went with veri and .co. I think .com domains are also very hard to get. This feature, I think it's something that a lot of people at hackathons want to build. Take a picture, log your food, or take a picture at a restaurant and decompose the ingredients, see what nutrients are in it, log it to something, or tell you if you're allergic to something, and ask a bunch of questions about your food. So this app is really cool. I don't exactly know how they work, but I can imagine building something like this with Facebook's Segment Anything. Take a picture, segment all the different looking things, and classify each one of those segmented object image chunks. And I took a picture earlier today of a salad bowl that I had, and as long as the ingredients are not lumped on top of each other, as long as you can see each ingredient with the camera, it classifies it pretty well. It distinguishes between like chicken and pork and different kinds of vegetables and beans, nuts, salsa, guac, and I love these little nifty use cases for AI.
That's pretty cool. Have you actually noticed any? Have you noticed any results? Like, you feeling better? Do you have more energy? Have you learned something affects you negatively or positively? How has this helped you?
Yeah. I mean, it's been less than 2 weeks. But I've learned a lot about a few takeaways. So, eating the same foods later in the day will cause my blood sugar to spike 2 to 3 times more than it would in the middle of the day.
So for reference, a blood sugar spike is not a good thing, right?
It's not a good thing. It results in more oxidation, more aging, and puts you at risk for prediabetes and diabetes. You want your body to get just enough energy, and getting too much glucose in your body, it ends up being converted to fat and overloading all of the, I think like the mitochondria in your body and not having it generate energy for you. And that is not a good thing. And there's a lot of drawbacks of having too much glucose in your body.
Yeah.
And in particular, having glucose spikes where you eat something sugary and you get this rush of glucose in your body all at once.
So have you found that app's helped you find foods that like maybe are less of a glucose spike?
Yeah. I have a lot of learning. So the order in which you eat your foods can have a big impact. So eating sugary things at the start of a meal isn't a good idea. If you just start the same meal in a different order and eat veggies first, that'll lessen the spike that sugary foods in the same meal will have. You can eat desserts at the end of a meal, which is not as bad as eating desserts by themselves as a snack in the middle of the day. If you're more stressed out, if you haven't had enough sleep, then your blood sugar spikes a little more. Eating later in the day is not as good. And being sedentary right after a meal is not good either. Even just like waving your arms around or having a very light walk for 10 minutes can like cut down this massive spike that you would have otherwise had after a big meal. A lot of interesting insights, and a lot of different foods have different impact on different people. So this is a really cool thing. It's not that cheap. It's a little prohibitively expensive to use regularly for most people, I think. But it's interesting to try it out once.
Yeah, so I use a continuous glucose monitor for a few weeks, and I got a lot of the same info that you got. I actually didn't realize that different meals the same meal at different times would spike your glucose in different ways. Because when I had the glucose monitor, I was just trying to eat a bunch of different stuff just to see how it would affect me.
I'm trying to do the same, yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't really try like the same thing over and over again. But I should. That's a good idea. Like at different times, like in the morning versus at night.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple favorite snacks, so like I like eating them all the time. I love hummus. I have this like go-to smoothie recipe that I make every weekend, and I shove a bunch of fruits, bananas, and a bunch of different things, and that is a massive sugar bomb. Despite how healthy that I think it is very sweet.
Well, I would imagine that because you're blending it probably is just like taking all the fructose, like it's like a liquid, like it's just like straight to the bloodstream or whatever.
Immediately, directly in my veins.
Yeah. Oh, so you don't drink, you just inject it?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it is blended it makes it so easy to digest that my body doesn't need to do any work to break down all these individual ingredients. So it's absorbed by my body a lot faster than if I ate these ingredients by themselves.
Yeah, I read a study a while ago that they said that they gave two mice, one group of mice, they gave like the same food, but it was like processed in some way. I think like blended or something. It was like a pellet. And the other one, they gave it as like a whole piece of food. And then they found that even though the identical calories, like the mouse that ate like the same food that was like slightly more processed just gained a lot more weight.
Yeah. I think this is a incorrect notion that calories are the same everywhere. Calories in, calories out was something that I used to use when I was working out in college.
Well, I think calories in, calories out is still like technically correct. Because the thing is, so I agree with you that I don't know how we started getting onto this topic, but anyways, like I agree that not all calories are created equal.
They're not.
Right?
Not even close.
Because like, if you have like I think it's like protein, it takes like more energy to kind of digest that protein calorie, right?
Yeah, it's processed in your liver, I think.
Yeah, so anyways, so then like, technically calories in and calories out is true, but like oftentimes like, if you have a set number of calories that's like highly processed, you're just going to get a lot less out.
It's so much more complicated than that. Even, think about like potatoes. You boil a bunch of potatoes, and they're good to go. They're hot, they're steaming, they're yummy. If you eat them right then and there, you'll, get some amount of blood sugar spike and get some amount of energy from those potatoes. If you put them in the fridge, let them, get cold overnight, and then, take it out, reheat them, and eat them again, it's going to have a much lower caloric absorption in your body, because the way those molecules bind changes after you cool down these bonds, and it makes it harder to break down some of these chains and extract energy out of it. So it's such a complicated science. At each different action that you do, that like the processing of the food takes has an impact on how it affects your body.
Yeah, I even heard that like if you have like vegetables just like sitting like on your counter, like in the refrigerator for like a while, they lose nutrients over time.
That's true too. Yeah, I mean, the more you process ingredients, the more is lost to like oxidation, or I don't know, maybe like sublimation or something. So ideally, you want to like. That's why my coffee beans. I was so annoyed. I ordered a bunch of coffee beans from Amazon, but it came grounded. I ordered whole beans, but it came grounded, and I was so annoyed because like grinding coffee beans right before you make a brew of coffee retains the flavor, some of the like all the caffeinols. I forget the compound, but all the things that makes coffee amazing.
I used to have a friend who just bought like the unroasted beans, and they had like coffee roasters. And he was like,
that's another level.
Yeah. Man, I feel like all this makes me feel like how are we supposed to be healthy in like today's modern society? Like everything's like prepackaged, been sitting on the shelf for like, months before it gets to you in like plastic containers with, all these like additives and preservatives. So it doesn't, I don't know. Like, I feel like I just need to go off as like a farm somewhere and then just like start eating just food that I grew myself.
I have an answer with generative AI. I'm serious. With some kind of an all-knowing medical expert that's right at your fingertips, that's able to comment, learn about your eating habits, and give you suggestions. I feel like that's realistically the only way to process all this information, because like, who has the time to understand all of this about food science, nutrition, biology, and medicine to make the right choices to be healthy?
You're right. There should be somebody who makes like an app or something that just tells you like what to eat and when to eat it.
Yeah.
And then like based off of like your biomarkers, like I wonder if you could like somehow like bring it. I don't know exactly how you build this. You'd have to have some sort of thing that measures what it can. Like I don't know, it could like connect to your continuous glucose monitor. It connect to your smart ring, Apple Watch, whatever. If it could like read your cholesterol levels, like I don't know, like ketone levels, whatever, and then just take all that information and then see if it could synthesize it. Be like, oh, like you should skip a meal, or like, hey, buddy, like it's time to have steak and eggs for breakfast because you need some protein. Like I think that would be really cool. And I think you're right. Like I mean that's really the future that needs to be there, because I think that's like kind of Brian Johnson's whole thing. He's like, well, like we're gonna be run by algorithms in the future anyways, so it's like might as well just like bow down to them.
Yeah. So Brian Johnson is someone who's I don't even know what to call him. Like not quite a fitness or health influencer, but
professional rejuvenation athlete.
Sure. A someone who sold this company, made a lot of money, and decided he's gonna use himself, his body, as a guinea pig to try to live forever, try to do exactly what it takes to operate at optimal health, get the perfect sleep, get the perfect nutrition, to reverse the impact of aging that just happens as we live, and make choices in our lives that maybe bring us joy but are suboptimal for the functioning of our body. And he's a little too robotic. I think a majority of people, probably like 99% of people, wouldn't want to live the life that he does. But it would be great if we can take some of the learnings and distill that down into simple exercises that we can do throughout our day.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it'd be the future. I mean, maybe you could even make like 3D printed food or something like that gives you the exact nutrients that you
No, that
need.
defeats the purpose. So we're talking about eating whole, unprocessed, organic, untouched by machines, and
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess you could have it either way, right? Like, so on the one hand, you could say like, all right, I'm going to have this broccoli straight from the garden. Or you could say like, well, my body needs like 37% carbohydrates with like this micronutrients and that micronutrients. So it's like, you can eat broccoli, or you could have a food pellet that has exactly what you need that will help you live optimally with the optimum energy, most muscle gain. Yeah, I mean, it won't be like natural.
Sure. I guess if I were to humor you, if we had really cutting edge 3D printers that can print at the cellular level, and we printed fibers and other things to keep our gut microbiome healthy and not have highly processed, not have the same impact as highly processed foods, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, like
3D print some fibers too in your steak.
sure, why not? I mean, like, you think about it, like, nature does it, right? Like, why can't we? Like, I mean, isn't it crazy? Just like put like a seed in the ground and like it grows. You don't have to like do it. You just like put it there, like put some water, sun, and then like soil, and then you get like a plant. It's amazing. And like, I mean, if like it can. If a seed can do it, like, well, why can't we?
I wouldn't say a seed has done that all by itself. It is like 4 billion years of evolution that has led to this phenomenon being emergent.
Well, sure. I mean, but like, you have the 4 billion years of evolution, and then like we could use that to like build the 3D printer thing, which like the seed which grows exactly what you need for Tuesday.
That'd be pretty cool.
That would be cool. Like all your meals, like it just like grow it. Like imagine like you just like put it in the ground and like out comes like a cow with the exact macro and micronutrients that you need. It would help you live forever. And also you could optimize like your food preference as well. So like when you ate it, it would taste amazing.
Actually, I don't know if cool is the right word. That sounds like a highly controversial thing that a lot of people might have very conflicting opinions about.
You think so? Why would that be controversial? I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, put a seed in and get a piece of steak out of it. The steak seed.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Well, anyways, I know we're about out of time, but
yeah, if the folks at DeepMind are working on any cool protein folding solutions that can come up with the steak seed, let us know.
Yeah. All right. Well, until next time.